The first time live on YouTube. So welcome to everybody who made it here, whether you're joining us over from Twitch or if you're watching on YouTube live for the first time. I want to say thank you for being here. Probably see some names we don't recognize. Maybe they're people with just a different screen name from Twitch. Maybe we're new. In either way, we're really glad to have you here. If this is your first time watching the Rocksmith developer stream, we've been doing this for a few years now. We like to talk about music. We listen to some song playthroughs from Rocksmith, and we have some giveaways. Today, the giveaways are going to be a little bit different. We're going to have to skip the Ernie Ball prize pack giveaways. Apologize. We will have some song pack giveaways in the future. Once I'm going to work on getting a system set up so that we can securely do the Ernie Ball prize pack giveaways, and we'll do some makeup for that in the future. That's all coming up later. Right now, first things first, I want to introduce our guests. Today on the stream, we have live Sam Schwartz and Greg Studley. Gentlemen, welcome to the stream, the first here on YouTube.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Greg Studley and Sam Schwartz, both musical content developers. Greg, senior musical content developer.
Thanks, Doug.
Well, welcome.
I feel like I was supposed to say something to that.
You made a big deal about it a few weeks ago, so I wanted to.
No.
Well, everybody in the chat know this week UB Jurassic is out. We are being covered by UB Shorman, who's going to be doing all the moderation and taking questions from you in chat. So yeah, if you have any questions throughout the stream for myself, for our guests, about our conversation, or just about guitar, Rocksmith in general, reach out to UB Shorman and he'll get those questions to us, and we'll try to answer as many as we can throughout the stream. So, gentlemen, today I brought you here. I invited you here to discuss playing music live for the first time with others, whether this be getting together to jam with friends or if you're trying to join a band. Wanted to talk about sort of the first steps, what you need to know, what you need to be prepared for if you've never played in a live setting with others. Obviously, this is for when it is safe to do so, once we have ways and means in place to meet face-to-face to play music for the first time. So each of you, you've both done this, I assume. You've played with other people.
Indeed.
Before, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, before. So yeah, just let's go ahead and start with when you're meeting with people, what sort of expectations should you have? What sort of knowledge and skills should you sort of have on hand the first time you're meeting together with other people to play music?
Ooh. Greg, do you want me to take this one, or do you want to take this one?
Either way, man. Either way.
So my 2 cents is the main skill that you want to have is a little bit of humility, because no matter what you're going to go and do with people for the first time, you're going to learn something almost certainly. There's no way that you're going to walk into a musical situation having never done it before and playing with other people and not having to acclimate to what's going on in that setting, right? So the first thing I think is a sense of like, just expect things to go wrong, right? Expect that like the drummer will lose the beat if you're with the drummer, or a bass player is going to lose the beat if you're with the bass player. The singer might not know when to come in if you're playing with a singer, or you and the guitar player might not exactly know how to fill the space in different ways. Like all of those are things that are just part of being new to playing with other people. I think that's like a big thing to just come in with humility first, and then you can talk about all the other stuff later. But there was like a quote from, I think it was Dave Grohl, who said something to the effect of you get into like, before we got good, we were just a bunch of guys in a garage that sucked for a while. And if you come in with that expectation, anything that comes good out of that is going to be an upgrade from the expectation of like, we're just coming in for the first time and figuring it out, right? So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, the thing I'd add to it is, I mean, totally agree with Sam. I would add that you have to have your ears open. A lot of times people are, we're accustomed to, when we're practicing, we're listening to ourselves more than anyone else.
Right.
But when you get with a group of people you need to keep your eyes and ears open constantly to what they are playing. If if you're used to playing with a metronome and you're like, all right, like I know how to play along with this like totally steady beat, I've got this, or a drum machine or something, you're like, yeah, that's what I'm good at. Well, guess what? A real drummer is going to speed up and slow down at least a little bit. And
Right.
if you're not keeping your eyes and ears open, that beat's going to get away from you before you even know it. So really, especially playing with other people that you're unfamiliar with how they play, listening to what they're playing is key, because it's also going to help you determine what to play. If you're thinking like, okay, how much do I want to play here? Well, it's like, well, if the bass player is going up and he's doing this, wicked fill, you don't want to throw something in that spot. You want to like let that shine through and give that bass player that fill. Yeah, exactly. So wait till that bass player is done with what he's doing, and then go ahead and play something a little more aggressive with your guitar. But the main way to do that is to listen and be aware of what everyone else is playing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too.
And I do want to point out, not everybody who plays guitar, not everybody who plays bass, whether they're playing, on their own or they're playing, on Rocksmith, not everybody is going to have that desire to be in a band or to jam with others. You might just want to sit and play the songs that you like by yourself, and that's totally cool. I just want to point that out before we continue on with this conversation, which is geared towards people who do want to get out and play with other people who have that drive, who have that specific desire. So yeah, how do you think when you're ready to like jam with other people? An immediate follow-up, why are you wrong? And you can probably start jamming with others as soon as it's safe to meet up.
The answer to that question is yes.
Okay, perfect.
Because you're never going to be ready to jam with anybody. There's no amount of preparation you can have for a conversation, right? If you're going to have a conversation with somebody, it's like, okay, I learned all the words. And I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos of people talking amongst themselves. And I have a very good idea of how to lead a conversation and how to sit back in a conversation. And I've even watched videos of the people that I'm going to start talking with have conversations, and I'm sort of aware of how that's going to go. So you can do all that preparation and write all your notes down, and then the second you get there, it's like, ah, shit, I broke a string, and or this thing. Oh, and then it's like, oh, but somebody wants to come over, and like somebody brought their friend who sings, who didn't rehearse any of the. Oh, can you play this song? And you're like, no. So like I said, like coming in with like very just a small level of expectations and realizing that you're going to screw up anyway, and that you're going to have issues is going to make for a much better experience the first time you jam with somebody, because and having open ears. Okay. Yeah, and that's great. Okay. That's how that works. And like, it's sort of like this thing when you're a beginner. It's just embrace the suck, embrace the things that you're not gonna know how to jam with people the first time you do it, right? It's like if you try to run 3 miles and you haven't ran before, that first 5 minutes of running is going to kill you because you haven't trained up for it. But after a while, you start getting better at it, and you can do that. It's like it's like anything, right? You just have to get good at the different pieces of it, and then you can put it together. So just come in there with a sense of like, this is going to probably be a little sloppy, and that's okay. That's to be expected.
And do you think, Greg, do you think it's worth sort of, how would you set expectations? If it is the first time that you're playing with other people, I assume jamming, if not trying to join a band, what sort of expectations do you think it's your responsibility to let them know that it's your first time playing with other people? Or do you think that's something that you should just keep to yourself and kind of play through and see how it goes?
You could frame it either way. I mean, it depends on the relationship you have with the people you're playing. I mean, if they're your close friends, then they already know this about you. If it's people you don't know, you might want to tell them anyway, just because it lowers their expectations, which is kind of a good thing, because it's like, hey, this is only going to go as good as I'm letting you know it's going to go, and then who knows, you might impress them and surprise them afterwards. A really good mindset to have when you're going into kind of either an audition or a jam situation or whatever it might be, is being aware of what you know that you can do. and kind of reminding yourself like, okay, this is my level. This is my limit. This is what I've trained myself to do. Because the minute you try and push past that in a live situation, you are likely to fall flat on your face.
Okay.
Because as Sam has said, if you haven't ran 3 miles, you're not going to be able to do it. If you haven't really practiced, shredding at 140 beats per minute playing 16th notes, if that's something you've never done, and then in the middle of a jam you're like, hey, I'm going to try this, it's just not going to work for you. So be aware of kind of, okay, this is me, this is what I know how to do, this is what I'm good at because this is what I've practiced. And then when you go in, as long as you keep that in mind, that this is how I play, and you hold to that, you're actually going to sound likely pretty good because you're doing what you know how to do. Yeah. And I often tell people, hey, when you want to push yourself when you're practicing, because that way when you want to, use what you've practiced, you're totally ready to do it.
Right. And sort of expanding on what Greg has said too, and why I think it's good to keep a humble attitude is that let's assume that you have been practicing shredding at 140 BPM, right? What you probably haven't practiced is practicing shredding over a drummer that does not know how to keep time. So, you know what I mean? Or a bass player that might be a little bit wobbly as to the song form, because you're like, cool, I'm great at practicing with this perfect machine. And the band members that you're practicing with and you're playing with are not perfect machines, which is one of the best things about playing with other people is that they're not perfect machines.
Very true.
And because if that was the case, we could all just, get on YouTube and play with our jam tracks, and that would be the end of they'd be like, well, I make music with human beings. So I think that's another thing to remember is again, there's no amount of perfection that's going to prepare you for interacting with other people, right? That's just a different skill set altogether. And to give yourself a little bit of room to feel that pressure of being in a situation that you don't know what's going on, I think it's just really important, when you're going to go jam with people for the first time.
So when I was coming up, I think there was jam or jamming was sort of seen as a bad word almost. Like if you weren't going into a band to play songs, then you just don't bother playing. And I think that was a mistake when I was growing up. And Sam, you sort of mentioned learning conversation, and that seems like what jamming can be, is learning that conversation, learning those skills of how to communicate with other musicians in that setting. Do you think jamming for fun is a necessary step or an advised step before trying to join a band that is trying to write songs, trying to get gigs? Do you think that just that playing with other people with no expectations is a valuable step?
Yeah, I think that they're just all sort of different skill sets that interact with each other, right? And so you'll find that it's kind of like the difference between, if you're thinking about cooking, it's okay, well, I know how to make this one dish really well, but I don't know how to bake, right? But I'm a very excellent, cook when it comes to sauteing onions and grilling a steak, killer. But then somebody asks you hey, I want to do a veggie dish, right? And you have to start chopping up broccoli and cauliflower and doing that at the right temperature and making sure you add just enough salt for that. And you don't know those things until you get there. But if you have seasoned steak and you have cooked onions and you know how to get that in a good place, those skills might inform how you make broccoli and how you bake and so forth. So I think that the answer to your question isn't a strict yes or no, but it's all of those things contribute to being able to be in a band situation, and they shouldn't be qualifiers or disqualifiers, right? Because if you get to a band situation, it's and you ask everybody there, it's oh, have you jammed with anybody before? To be able to write songs, that's not great. And I feel it's also not great to ask people, who are showing up to a jam. It's well, this is bad because you're not writing songs. It's look, let's just exist and stop judging everybody for what they're showing up for. We all are here to learn, right? We're all here to get better, and we're all here to make music. And maybe that doesn't jive with certain people, and then you figure out a better group of people to jam with, because that's also going to happen, right? You're going to meet people in jam situations where you're I don't really like playing with that person. And over time, you'll maybe want to jam with other people, and that's going to inform your decisions. You just learn and learn and learn.
I just want to say from Sam's analogy, I'm looking forward to meeting up and coming over for dinner, because it sounds like not only with music, but it sounds like you're also quite the culinary extraordinaire. So
I've
I don't
gotten
know
better
if
at
it's
it.
going to be broccoli or what, man, but I'm
The
showing
only,
up.
I said
Once
it because
once we're in safety, I'm showing up, man, and I'm coming
you
over for
should.
dinner.
You
I
should.
will.
I have you. You both should come over and play games at my house. I have a.
Let's do it.
I just did. I did a cast iron steak the other night with like roasted garlic and like put it in the oven, and then I made this like potato thing with a roux and some broccoli. It's good, dude. Y'all gotta get on your broccoli practice.
Sorry, I took us off topic there.
Sorry.
No
Sorry.
problem. No problem.
No, so I wanted to comment
yeah.
on something Sam said, though, or actually kind of regards to your question, Doug. So I actually learned a lot about the way I wanted to play
Yeah.
by actually playing with people without playing songs.
Okay.
And it doesn't work for all kind of walks of how you want to learn, because this is kind of when I was in college and I was studying jazz, I was also really big into jam band music. And so I would get together with some of my friends and we would play at parties, and we wouldn't play a song the entire night, but we'd play for like 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we would just make up music for 4 hours straight. But what that does is that, for some people, for what I wanted to learn how to do, it taught me how to think through chord changes and things like that when, on the fly. Like, I don't know what you're about to play over there, but whatever you play, I'm going to have to react to it.
Yeah.
And doing that for me was actually really enjoyable. But I'll tell you one thing, that didn't help me at all when a piece of music was put in front of me and someone said, "Here, play these notes on the page." So it all depends what your end goal is. For me, I found it really useful to get together and jam with people. But, for other people who have different goals, it's actually really good to say, "Hey, I know this list of songs. Can we pick a few of these and get together and play them?" Because for some people, that's actually the better choice to go and do that. So whichever suits your needs, that's what you should try and do. And you could explore both and just see, hey, I like this one more than that, or I like them both, whatever.
Right.
Broccoli or steak.
Yeah.
Right. Or both.
Or both.
depending on the night, right?
Yeah. So if you're trying to get together with some friends at first, say you are a Rocksmith user, and you have your guitar, you have maybe a cable, and you've got a console or PC, but you don't have any other gear. Is it okay to ask a friend, especially if you're playing with that friend, "Hey, can I borrow an amp? Can I borrow a little bit of gear?" Is that taboo? Is that okay?
That's totally okay.
Yeah.
Because the worst answer you're going to get is no.
Yeah.
And the best answer you're going to get is, "Sure, yeah, come on over."
Yeah.
Okay. You got nothing to lose. Yeah, if you don't have your own gear, ask your friend. Honestly, we as musicians share gear a lot.
Yep.
Hey man, I need this, nylon acoustic electric for a gig because I don't have one. All right, I got one.
Yeah.
Great, use it. Thanks.
Right.
That we do that stuff all the time. And if you're going to get together and jam with your friends and you don't have a piece of gear, even if it's like, "Hey, can I try out that pedal if you're not using it today?"
Yeah.
Great, cool, try it out. It's totally fine to do that.
I've done that with Brian Shue more than a lot of times.
And earlier you mentioned sort of like jiving with people. How important do you think is jiving with people in the first session, or is that something that can be developed over time, or in your opinion, is that chemistry typically there or not?
I feel like when you're doing that for the first time, like it's the first time it's like you're jumping in a pool and trying to stay above water. So focus on that. Worry about the people dynamics once you're able to like tread water a little bit, and you'll find that like you can tread water with certain people better than you can with other people. That's that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, once you get together with people enough times, you realize that it's so sometimes this has happened where it's like, "Hey, musically this is totally working, but I'm not jiving with you as a person." Like, so that can totally happen. It's like when you are spending that many hours with other people trying to be creative, sometimes personalities crash, or sometimes musicianship crashes. It's like, "Hey, every time I'm playing a solo, you're not turning down so that people can hear me." Like that causes a musical issue. There's all kind of things, but it turns into like a relationship, especially if you're going to join in a band. Like that band becomes a relationship, and everybody in that band has to kind of jive the right way for it to last.
Is that when you
plenty of bands I've been in where I'm like, that person's just not working, and sometimes that person is me.
Right.
That's not fitting with everybody else. It's personalities can work really well or not so well in musical instances.
Right. It's like being married to 5 other men if
Yes.
you're in a band with 6 guys, you know, like that's what it was. That was my experience when I was in a band with, like, I think it was 6 people for the duration of that band that I was in. And it was like, and it's like being in a relationship with 6 different people, because it is. And everybody has their desires and weaknesses and strengths and things that they're not comfortable with. And you have to deal with all that.
So I guess Sam's point is really, if you're, you know, getting together with people for the first time, do a 3-piece.
Yeah,
that's a lot less people to try and jive with.
Or even like 2 people. Like if you just if you're a guitar player or a bass player and you just start jamming with a drummer, like it's a great way to start figuring out like what is like how, because if you're coming from Rocksmith, right, you're playing tunes that have already been tempo mapped and you're used to that coming to you in a very nice way, right? The note highway is very beautiful. And you know, this is like taking the training wheels off a little bit, and you're trying to deal with a drummer in real time and how they're going to react to your playing, because the only thing that's ever reacted to your playing, if you're a Rocksmith player, is the tuner, right? So for the first time, you're going to have other musicians reacting to what you're playing, which is like amazing feeling. You know? You're like, whoa, you liked something, you know?
I created something and it sounded rad. Let's
right.
Yeah. So once you have once you've sort of finished out that first session, whether it be like a practice or a jam type session, what should you reflect on? What are you trying to learn after the fact? Like, what can you look back on and say, like, this went well, this didn't, I should try this, I need to work on this? How do you sort of map those items in the moment? How do you come back to them and reflect on your own time so that when you do get back together with those people, you can bring more to the table?
I'd suggest don't linger on the mistakes too hard, because that's a really easy thing to do, is to be like, oh man, I messed up in that part, and you know, I missed that cue when it happened. You know, think about it more as a whole, like, hey, I just jammed with a bunch of people for like 3 hours. That was pretty awesome. And yeah, I missed this thing over here, so maybe I'll, you know, go back and look at it, but I didn't miss all this other stuff. I mean, look at it holistically, and you'll probably see that every experience can actually be looked at as being pretty positive. And you'll find a couple things that are worth working on, and, you know, work on that until the next time. But it can be viewed in a positive way almost every time.
Okay.
Yeah, and like it's like kind of expanding on what Greg said. It's like a great way to the way I always try to measure progress is like I try to look at how I started what I was doing and how I ended. And if I can put one tack in the wall of something that I did that was better than when I started, I was like, all right, that was worth it, right? Even if I didn't do everything that I wanted to do, it's kind of like, well, I didn't run 3 miles, but I ran like a mile, and that was much more than I was planning on doing this morning. And that's progress, right? Because next time you want to run, you might get 1.5 miles or 2 before you run out of breath, or you might be able to run all 3. So, so that's, I mean, going with that, it's like going with what Greg said, just try to figure out like how progress is working for you in that situation. I think that really helps me do things.
How do you develop the skills of dealing out and accepting criticism? Because again, that's something that you're not getting a lot of. You have the voice telling you, if you're just coming in from Rocksmith and you're playing with others for the first time, you know, you've been told, you know, adequate performance maybe, and maybe that stung, maybe it didn't, or you've been nailing things and you've been getting a lot of positive reinforcement. How do you develop, if you've never had to sort of work with others in a creative endeavor like this, how do you develop those skills? Is there something is there a mind frame that you can come into the session with to adequately deal out and accept criticism?
Speak to everyone else as you would prefer to be spoken to. That
Yeah, that's one.
if you wouldn't like what you're about to say, then don't say it.
I would approach it a little bit differently, which is that people are only ready to hear what they're ready to hear. So, like you saying something that that whoever you're talking to might not want to hear, or that doesn't, like if you're gonna rail on somebody about not being in time, it's like they might not hear what you're saying. They might just say you were just being a punk to me for no reason. And they won't hear the fact, like maybe buried in that criticism, which was actually more critical than it was of their playing than it was of their character. Then they might not hear a character assassination, and they will hear they'll hear the criticism that you were trying to give to them. Yeah. But a lot of times it's like, just wait until you know that person well enough to know when they're ready to hear something, if you're going to go out on a limb and make a critique. Because I've made critiques and also have been critiqued in ways where I'm like, it just kind of seems like you didn't listen to me. You just said how you felt and disguised it in a critique that didn't really add up to anything useful for me. Sure. But sometimes you hear a critique and it's like, yeah, there's a point there. And if you can separate yourself from the character part of the critique and only glom onto the thing that was critically said about what you were doing, you will improve if you focus on that and not on how it makes you feel necessarily. Okay. And also, I try to refrain from doing that kind of critical. There are certain instances where it really does help, though. Like, especially if you guys are working on something and you're trying to achieve something, like if there's a certain, like, very specific goal, it makes it a little easier. Like, if you're playing a song where, like, there's a section where the drummer starts rushing a lot during a certain section, and you guys are trying to slow that down, and it's like a thing you guys have tried to do a couple times, be like, hey, let's go over that section, and don't be like, hey, drummer, you suck, you're rushing too much. That doesn't help, right? You want to be like, hey, drummer, during this certain section, I feel like we're moving a little bit too fast. Can we try that section and just count it off a little slower, coming in like 4 bars earlier? And that is a way to construct a positive, more of a positive dialogue in the band, where you guys are approaching that situation in a way that actually makes everybody better and everybody happier, and does help with that constructive feedback. And it isn't much of a character assassination, right? It's like, hey, I just want to make sure that this part that we're supposed to put, like, especially if you have like a show in a couple weeks or something, like, we have a show in 2 weeks and this part just keeps rushing and we all can't get out of this bridge on time. Maybe we should slow it down, go through it, drill it a couple times, make sure we all have it and we all know what's going on. And then it's not like, hey, drummer, you're rushing, you suck, right? That doesn't help. So yeah, I don't know. So that's my long-winded answer to that.
I think the we, kind of looking at it that way, from the we are having a problem with this section, you don't really have to point a finger at anybody then. I mean, and that's because the truth is, when someone's listening, they're going to hear everybody. The band as a whole, the group as a whole, is actually making the sound. And so it's actually good to say, hey, it sounds like we're having a problem with this section. Let's go over it. Because then it's really about, hey, I don't know if it's you, I don't know if it's me, or maybe I do know it's you. But the point is, the more times that we play it, the better it's probably going to get. So you don't even necessarily have to point a finger at a person. You can just say, we should work on this part, and it will probably get better the more times you play it.
Right.
Okay. I got a question for both of you from Zagadoz in the chat. What different approaches would you take when jamming with session mode in Rocksmith versus with real people? Mentally, what's the difference? If you have been practicing session mode to kind of practice jamming, practice improvisation, what's the difference in mindset when you switch over?
I think one of the things that you can do when you switch over is you're afforded a bit more option to put space between your notes, which is actually a good thing to do. So when you're playing with people, you can be like, hey, I'm really comfortable, or when you're playing with session mode, actually, you can say, hey, I'm really comfortable with kind of playing, and I know where the scales are landing, I know what notes to play. But when you get to play with people, you can both play off of what they're doing. You hear a drum fill or a bass fill, and you can actually mimic that rhythm in your notes.
Yeah.
But another thing you can do is you can leave a bit more space in between, and the music's going to keep flowing behind you. I mean, that's the cool thing. They're going to keep playing, and if you need to leave a measures rest, you leave that measures rest. You need to leave some long notes, you can leave it there, and the music's going to keep kind of flowing with you. So session mode is actually really good for understanding like the placement of where you're supposed to go across the neck. But feeding off of other people live is something you can only really do live.
Yeah. But to simplify that, I think it's like session mode will only listen to you. You will not be listening to session mode in the same way, right? Or like session mode will only respond to you. So if you stop playing, like, to get a beer, session mode stops working. But if you go get a beer during the band practice, bass player, drummer, other guitar player might still keep going. If you
you should probably bring a few back.
Right.
Yes,
and if you bring a few back, they keep going, right?
Right.
So like, or like you can go out for pizza and come back with pizza and they'll still be playing, but session mode will be like, boom, boom, boom. So that's the thing to keep in mind is, speaking of what Greg is saying, make sure you're listening to the people in the band, because you have the opportunity to respond to them as opposed to they are just there for you, which is what session mode is.
Okay, cool. And let's say you're ready to play with some other people. How do you start that? How do you have that conversation? How do you ask? How do you find people who are looking to play at around the same maybe level that you're at?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think a list of songs is one of the best tools you can use. If I tell someone, hey, I'm a guitar player and I've been playing a lot of, alternative 90s rock. Okay, that kind of, list of songs, maybe some Nirvana songs, stuff like that. It kind of gives, okay, this is kind of, your playing level. You're not going to get together with those same people and have them be like, all right, let's play some Dream Theater.
Let's go. Right. I knew that's
your song choices are actually going to say a lot about how you play.
Smart.
So I think that actually is a really good tool you can use to say, these are my music preferences. These are the songs I know how to play. And people with common interests are going to, they're going to read those songs and be like, oh, I know, 90% of what you just wrote there. That's the kind of stuff I listen to. That's what I like to play. They're probably going to contact you to make something happen.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I think it's about time this conversation has wrapped up. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. Thank you, Zagdo, for the question. And we will see you both very soon, hopefully. Greg, we had you on very recently, and we're going to see you again soon, I believe. Sam, always a pleasure to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Absolutely. And now is normally when we would have one of our giveaways. Today, I mentioned earlier in the stream when we first started, that is not the case today. The Ernie Ball prize packs we will be holding on to for now until we figure out a better system. But there will be a giveaway a little bit later in the stream. But right now, I want to go ahead and move things over to our performer for the week today. Today we have Francois Luong from Ubisoft Studios San Francisco.
Francois.
And he is going to be playing Pixies' Where Is My Mind. After that, we're going to hear from Shane Gann of Hail the Sun talking about the Hail the Sun song 8 Ball Corner's Pocket, which you can find as an unlockable track in Rocksmith. So here is Francois. We'll see you very, very soon.
Stop. amazing performance.
Hey guys, Shane here. Today I have the pleasure of doing a little deep dive into one of my band's songs, which is featured as an on-disc unlockable in Rocksmith 2014. The song is 8-Ball Coroner's Pocket from Hail the Sun's 2012 EP Elephantitis, which in a lot of ways was our breakout record. This song is the last track on the EP, and it is unique in that no section is revisited once it's been played. I actually did a little write-up about the song structure a few years back, and there should be a link showing up in the chat right about now. Okay, so first off, if you haven't unlocked the song yet, the quickest way to do so is to play Score Attack on as many songs as possible, on as many paths as possible, lead, rhythm, and bass. In our band, neither of us really wears the lead guitar hat, and we wanted players at home to get the exact same experience that we do when we play the song ourselves. So instead of strictly separating the lead material from the rhythm material like we usually do in a note track, we actually featured my entire part on the lead path and Eric's entire part on the rhythm path. Let's just chalk it up to, if you've gotten this far, you're good enough. At least to try. Okay, here we go. 8-Ball Coroner's Pocket. I'm going to let the song play and just play along, and I will just stop at a few sections that I want to kind of dive into. Alright, this first section I want to talk about is this verse. On the lead path, you'll see my chord is a B flat major 7 that doesn't change. I go. Whereas the underlying chord, which happens in the rhythm, and if you're playing the bass, they go B flat major 7 to D minor 7 to G minor 7. The way I think of it is the guitars and bass are kind of creating this massive chord with bass at the very bottom and my chords at the very top. Eric's chords are kind of in the middle. My chord, the ceiling of the chord stays the same. Never moves, but there's that underlying movement which centers around the B flat and then the D and then the G. So you kind of get this shift upward from the floor while the ceiling stays the same. And I just thought that was a really interesting way to sort of set the tonality for the song.
I get a large euphoria from such a small form you love. Yeah, yeah. A little paper on the side will be my ticket to ride. Yeah, yeah. Doubt in my mind. Doctor's orders, take some more. I'm hearing knocks at the door. Meddling family, go home. I feel much less than before.
Okay, this next section is where I really want to sort of spend a little bit of time. It's a situation where I wrote a chord section and a lead section, and then instead of just saying, Eric, you take the lead, I'll take the chords, I wanted us to really sort of share duties. Here's the chord progression. It's this G minor 9 to a D minor 7 to an E flat major 9. 17 eighth notes. I counted as like 1 bar 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now the lead that I wrote for it, I'll play it slowly first. It's just a So that first section's all over the kind of straight feel, and then those little bits are on top of the small bars of 3. So what I decided to do was actually have, every time the chord changes, the responsibility for who's playing which part swaps as well. So if I start on the chord, then I switch to the lead. And then back to the chord, then the lead. And when we play them together, they line up perfectly so that every other round we land back where we started. Right here we switch to a 5/4 timing, or a 5/8 I guess. It's pretty fast. Those are the 5 notes. I kind of did a similar situation to what I alluded to earlier, in that Eric and I are playing a similar piece of music, but we're starting at different sections. He starts on the F sharp, and I start on the A, which is the 3rd note. But I play the exact same line, so I go. And on top of each other, they sort of create these harmonies and just this sort of unresolved feeling. And the fact that the drums and the bass are just going boom, 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 boom. And it's very hard to count. It's totally on purpose. It's just sort of supposed to leave you with this sort of complete and utter lost feeling, which I think we captured pretty well. But let's check that out. Okay, this last area I want to touch on is regarding this timing at the very end, 29/8. And it wasn't counted to begin with. When I wrote the part, it was just a feeling. So this is a... The way that I feel it out is... So if you can get that little pattern in your head, then at the end of it, there's a hiccup. 1/8 note is a hiccup, and then there are 4 bars of 3/8. So it's like... if that makes sense. thanks for watching. That's it for this one. Got something in my teeth. Special thanks to Doug for inviting me to do this, and thank you to you guys for watching. Until next time, enjoy the rest of the stream. See you guys later.
And welcome back to a live portion of today's Rocksmith Developer Stream. I am still your host and community developer on Rocksmith, Douglas Lilly. Thank you again, everybody who's here for the first time and who joined us over from Twitch. Really appreciate having you here in this sort of inaugural YouTube stream. Things have been going pretty smoothly so far. Hopefully they will continue to do so. I meant to say early on to set expectations that, you know, it might be a little shaky just because it's the first time we're doing this, but it seems everything's fine. Dan, you're doing a great job. Right now, we are going to drop into the chat. Normally, we would have a raffle or a giveaway. Right now, we don't have the best means to do so just yet. So what we're going to do, we're just going to drop them into the chat, and it's going to be the first to redeem gets them. We are dropping 5 copies of the Radiohead 3 song pack for Steam into the chat. So please look out for UB Shorman. That is our community representative who's helping out today from North Carolina. He will be dropping those 5 codes into the chat. Each one will be for a copy of the Radiohead Song Pack 3 in Steam. In that song pack, Airbag, Fake Plastic Trees, and Jigsaw Falling into Place, which has a couple of my favorite songs to play on bass, especially amongst the Radiohead songs. So good luck on those. Again, it's going to be whoever gets to redeem them first gets them. We'll have a different system in the future once we get it set up. But this is what we got right now. So if you get them, congratulations and enjoy them. Right now, we are going to go back to Francois, who is going to play a Foo Fighters tune for us with a secret special guest. See if you can spot him. Here is Francois.
Hello, I've waited here for you ever long. Tonight, I throw myself into out of the red, out of the head she sang. Come down and waste away with me, down with me. Slow how you wanted it to be. I'm over my head, out of the head she sang. And I wonder, when I sing along with you, if everything could ever be this real forever, if anything could ever be this good again, the only thing I'll ever ask of you, gotta promise not to stop when I say when she sang. Breathe out so I can breathe you in. Hold you. And now I know you've always been out of your head, out of my head I sang. And I wonder, when I sing along with you, if everything could ever feel this real forever, If anything could ever be this good again, the only thing I'll ever ask of you, gotta promise not to stop when I say when. She sang. And I wonder if everything could ever feel this real forever. If anything could ever be this good again. The only thing I'll ever ask of you, gotta promise not to stop when I say when.
And welcome back to the live time for today's stream. Once again, I've been your host and community developer on Rocksmith, Douglas Lilly. Again, thank you so much for joining us here. Whether you're watching this for the first time because you saw the notification and you're like, what is this? What could this possibly be? Thank you for being here. If you're joining us from Twitch, thank you for coming, following us over here from there, especially if you had to make pains to do so. We really appreciate you being here. And I want to thank very much Francois for playing, Dan for running the board and singing. I want to thank Shane Gann for that lovely deep dive, and Sam Schwartz and Greg Studley for having a great conversation about how to play with other people for the first time. Also, thank you to Yuri Shorman, who's covering for UB Jurassic in North Carolina, who's been moderating and doing the song pack drops. We will see you back here in about 2 weeks. We will send our notifications out on all of our social media, so look for it on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Rocksmith Game, Facebook.com/Rocksmith. We'll get you here. And yeah, thank you again for being here. We will see you very soon.